Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply. In this video is to bring you a closer look at the Ultra Hardware number 35596. This is a 5-inch double acting satin brass sprayed spring hinge. It's actually a box of two, so when you order one, you're going to get one box that has a pair of hinges in it. Okay. Now, the most important thing with double acting spring hinges really is to determine the size that you need is based on the door thickness. So if you're doing a 5-inch if you're doing a 5-inch hinge, that means specifically that your door thickness will be between 1.125 and 1.375. It has always been in my experience that a 5-inch hinge will do 1.5 inches thick door, or up to, but it will not. This is really just up to 1.375. And while it's pretty straightforward, you got to make sure your door fits inside of the cavity here, meaning, down beneath here, where this barrel is and where this is as well. That is an odd looking hinge, there's no doubt. Okay. So 1.125 to 1.375. If you're dealing with that door range, this is the proper hinge for you. There's no question. Sprayed brass finish. Okay, so it's all steel. Okay, and is quite heavy. It weighs 2 3/4 pounds, just each hinge. So they're not insignificant. These hinges are going to come from Ultra with the tension pins already installed in both of the barrels. Okay, you'll get a tension rod. And it's using the tension rod that you will be able to release and set tension on the springs. So when I pull that clockwise, when the tension collar is towards the top of the door and I rotate it clockwise, it increases the spring tension, and then I can pull that pin out. And all I've done is just let it fall onto my work table. That's what the pin looks like. It's called a tension pin. You can remove your tension rod at that point, and then this leaf is just free swinging. So that's how you'll go about attaching it to the cased opening frame. So this is obviously the frame leaf here, and then you can get access to the screws. The screws are included in a complimentary finish, all wood screws that you'll need for everything. Okay, be able to get that down. Loosening the tension on the door leaf is the same process. You don't want to lose the tension pins, and Ultra, I've never seen them missing, so calling them to say you didn't ship the tension pins, that's something they hear all the time. Just don't lose these. I suppose if you do, you could use maybe a 6 or 8 penny hardened nail. That would certainly serve the purpose. Anyway, so now both leaves are loose. You've got your frame leaf here, you've got your door leaf. Now, some dimensions that Ultra just simply does not give in terms of installation of the material. I want to be sure of what I just said. Yeah, there are no instructions in this box. In the absence of instructions, you're going to need to think about how much you're going to undersize the door when using this hinge, or making a larger frame opening. If you're going to surface mount this leaf to the door, if your door is going to sit in this pocket and you're not going to mortise this at all, you're going to need a bigger dimension, obviously, than you certainly would otherwise. And using my tape measure, I'm going to think about 3/8 of an inch. Yeah, that's right on. The total thickness of all of the material here is 3/8 of an inch. So I would definitely account for 3/8 of an inch being just how much you're going to need on this side, and I would probably pad that out at least a 1/16. Okay, then think about the distance from the opposite side of the door, or what would be the push and pull side of the door, or the push side of the door, and that jamb. And that dimension is going to be based on whether or not you're using a square edge door or if you're using a radiused edge door. If you're going to mortise this leaf, you could probably get this margin down to 1/8 of an inch. Well, wouldn't be quite 1/8. but you can probably get it down to about 3/16 or so. You're going to want to measure that. And if you're going to radius over the other side of the door, you know, think of the top row of tile in a bathroom, how it's got that curve to it. That's a bullnose. Well, if you take a door and you do a bullnose on both sides, that's radiused. So if you radius the door, you'll be able to get like an 1/8 of an inch margin on the opposite side, allowing for a very tight tolerance between the jambs and the door. So in the absence of a template from Ultra Hardware, you'll have to just do a reality check on everything before you go about installing it. If you want to discuss that, feel free to reach out to me. I've done this plenty of times, and it boils down to the situation that you're in at that moment, measuring the actual material that you have in your hands. If you're going to be doing doors that are light, you know, 50 pounds, you could probably get away with 2 of these hinges. Otherwise, go right to ordering enough so that you can put 2 at the top, you know, about 3 or 4 inches apart, and then 1 at the bottom, because you don't want that door, as it goes through its arc, 180-degree arc, you don't want it to leave the opening and hit the other side because you're underpowered is the bottom line. 2 at the top, that's where all the, you know, physics are happening with the swinging door. Be sure to do that. Setting the tension, when the tension collars are pointed at the top, it's clockwise to increase tension. If you were to install these with the tension collars down, just rotate it counterclockwise. And it's been my experience that if you have a pair of doors, tension collars go up on one and put them down on the other door. I can't explain it, but it just seems to work better. If anyone watching this video can, please reply to it and give us all the benefit of that knowledge. Speaking of pairs of doors, your frame inside width opening and your net door size, that math will all change as well, because if you've got an 1/8 of an inch between the doors, and if they're both radiused, you don't need to double that dimension, because your doors will swing very clear past each other if they're radiused. If they're square edge, you're going to have a lot of room, maybe a 1/2 inch of daylight between the doors, because they will strike each other, there's no doubt. Hinges like this you're going to see very commonly in restaurants, between the kitchen and the serving dining area, very typically seen there. I don't see these in residential applications often. I typically see different hardware for swinging the door back and forth, but there would be nothing that would preclude this about being used in a residential application. Just keep in mind that you've got enough spring, that you want to have enough spring power based on the weight of the door. If you get over 50 pounds, two is dangerous work to have only 2. And then what you'll try to do to compensate is to get so much tension set on these springs that they'll snap. So don't push your luck with it, is what I'm trying to say. Be conservative. You want a nice quality job. They're not really that expensive to begin with. So Ultra Hardware 35596. If you have any questions on 35596, if you have any questions on this Ultra Hardware hinge or any other Ultra Hardware product who's a full line importer of many things commercial building related, please feel free to reach out to us. Thank you very much.